On the second day of the ultimatum, Jake woke to find the Empress sitting by his window, looking out at the fleet of enemy ships that filled the sky. "You could not sleep either?" he asked, joining her. "I have been thinking about what Prince Korath said, about proving you are not manipulating me." Jake sat down beside her. "How do we prove something like that?" "We do not," she said quietly, "because there is something I must tell you, and it will change everything." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What is it?" The Empress turned to face him, and Jake could see tears in her silver eyes. "I am not just attracted to you, Jake. I am falling in love with you. And that terrifies me." Jake stared at her, unable to speak. "For over a century," she continued, "I have been the perfect Empress. I put duty before personal desires. I never allowed myself to feel anything that might compromise my judgment. But you ... I what? You make me remember who I was before. Became a ruler. You make me want to be just a person again, not a symbol or a prize." Jake reached out and took her hand. Her skin was warm, despite its pale blue color. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that if I choose you, it will not be because you manipulated me. It will be because you are the first being in my long life who has seen me as simply Zara, not as an Empress." "Zara," Jake repeated softly. "Is that your real name?" "It is what my family called me before I took the throne." She smiled through her tears. "I had almost forgotten what it sounded like." Before Jake could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the palace. Admiral Vextar's voice echoed through the communication system. "All personnel to battle stations. The coalition fleet is moving into attack formation." Jake and Zara rushed to the command center, where they found chaos. The tactical displays showed thousands of enemy ships surrounding Zerion Prime. "Report," the Empress commanded, once again the Imperial ruler. "Your Majesty," Admiral Vextar said, "they are demanding an immediate response to their ultimatum. They say they will not wait until tomorrow." Prince Korath's face appeared on the Yao. Main screen, his scaled features twisted with rage. "Empress, your time is up. Surrender the human to us, or we will take him by force." "I refuse," the Empress said simply. "Then you have chosen war. Prepare to watch your empire burn." The screen went dark, and immediately the first enemy ships began moving toward the planet. "Your Majesty," Admiral Vextar said urgently, "we must evacuate you to the deep space fortress. Our fleet cannot protect the palace from this many ships." "No," the Empress said, "I will not run from bullies." Jake stepped forward. "Your Majesty, Admiral Vextar is right. You need to get to safety. And leave you here to face them alone? Never." "Zara," Jake said, using her real name in front of her staff for the first time, "listen to me. I have an idea, but I need you to trust me." She looked into his eyes and saw something there that gave her hope. "What do you need me to do?" "I need you to call a galaxy-wide emergency session of the Galactic Council. Every species, every empire, every government." "Jake, that could take days to arrange." "It could. Or it could take 10 minutes if the most powerful ruler in the galaxy demands it immediately." Admiral Vextar looked confused. "Captain Murphy, what are you planning?" "I am going to do something that 10,000 suitors could not do," Jake said. "I am going to give the Empress exactly what she wants." 2 hours later, every major leader in the galaxy was connected to an emergency communication channel. Jake stood beside the Empress in the throne room, watching as hundreds of alien faces filled the screens around them. The coalition ships had stopped their attack, curious about what the Empress planned to announce to the galaxy. "Leaders of the galaxy," the Empress began, "I have called this session to make an important announcement about my future and the future of the Zerion Empire." Prince Korath's voice boomed through the speakers. If you think you can save your human pet with politics, silence, the Empress commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. You will listen, or you will be removed from this channel. The Dragon Prince fell quiet, clearly surprised by her tone. The Empress continued. For 123 years, I have ruled this empire alone. For 123 years, beings from across the galaxy have tried to win my hand in marriage, not out of love, but out of desire for power. She looked at Jake, who nodded encouragingly. Today, that ends. I am abdicating my throne. Gasps echoed through the communication channels. Kelver, standing nearby, looked shocked, but not entirely surprised. My sister, Princess Velara, will become the new Empress of the Zarian Empire. She has been trained for leadership and will rule wisely. But Your Majesty, one of the galactic leaders protested, you cannot abandon your people. I am not abandoning them. I am choosing to serve them in a different way. For too long, I have been isolated in this palace, making decisions about worlds I have never visited and people I have never met. She walked closer to the cameras, her silver eyes blazing with determination. I am going to travel the galaxy as a private citizen. I will learn about the cultures and peoples that make up our diverse universe. And I will do this with someone who has shown me that there is more to life than duty and power. She turned to Jake, who was staring at her in amazement. Captain Jake, Murphy of Earth, you came to my empire seeking trade agreements. Instead, you gave me something far more valuable. You gave me back my sense of wonder about the galaxy. Prince Korath roared with rage. You cannot be serious. You would give up the greatest empire in the galaxy for this primitive human? I am not giving up anything, the former Empress replied calmly. I am choosing to live my life as I wish. To live it with someone who loves me for who I am, not what I represent. Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. Zara, are you sure about this? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. The coalition leaders were arguing alone, themselves clearly confused by this turn of events. They had come to win an Empress, but there was no longer an Empress to win. One of the calmer alien leaders, a being of pure energy, spoke up. Former Empress, what you are doing is unprecedented, but it is also inspiring. Thank you. However, Prince Korath snarled, she is still the rightful ruler. I do not recognize her abdication. Then you are a fool, said Princess Velara, appearing on screen from another part of the palace. My sister has the right to choose her own life. I accept the throne and all its responsibilities. Jake looked at Zara with wonder. You are really doing this? Giving up everything for me? No, she said with a smile that lit up the room. I am not giving up anything. I am gaining everything. For the first time in over a century, I am free to choose my own path. But what about your people? Your empire? My empire will be fine. My sister is an excellent leader. And as for my people, she turned back to the cameras. I will serve them by learning about the galaxy they live in and sharing that knowledge. Perhaps former empresses can be useful as explorers and diplomats. Prince Korath made one last desperate attempt. This is madness. You will regret this decision. The only thing I regret, Zara replied, is that it took me so long to make it. The emergency session ended with most of the galaxy in shock. A coalition fleet began to disperse, their leaders realizing there was no longer anything to fight over. Later that evening, Jake and Zara stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal cities of Zarian Prime. Tomorrow, they would leave together on the new horizon to explore the galaxy as equals. Are you nervous? Jake asked. Terrified, Zara admitted. I have never been just a person before. I do not know how to live without the responsibilities of ruling. You will learn. And I will help you. What about your crew? Your mission. My crew is excited about having a former Empress as our cultural consultant. And as for my mission, ... double quotes Jake smiled. I think I accomplished more than Earth Command ever hoped for. Zara laughed. Yes, trade agreements with the Zarian Empire will be much easier to negotiate now. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Jake, Zara said softly, do you think we are making the right choice? I think, Jake replied, taking her hand, that choosing love over duty is never wrong. And I think the galaxy is about to learn something important. What is that? That sometimes the greatest victory is not conquering someone, but finding someone who chooses to be with you freely. Above them, the stars shone like a promise of adventures to come. The former Empress and the human captain had found something that 10,000 suitors had missed. True partnership based on mutual respect and genuine affection. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would they. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks after Jake's arrival at the Imperial Palace. Lisa Carter burst into his quarters early in the morning, her face pale with worry. Captain, she said, you need to see the galactic news feeds. Jake followed her to the communication center, where Ryan Brooks was monitoring dozens of news channels from across the galaxy. The headlines made Jake's blood run cold. Human captain seduces Galactic Empress. 10,000 species rejected, but primitive. Humans succeed. The impossible Empress falls for Earth barbarian. This is bad, Ryan said. Really bad. Jake watched in horror as news reporters showed footage of him and the Empress walking through the city together. Someone had recognized her despite her disguise and recorded everything. Sir, Lisa said, we are getting emergency messages from Earth Command. They want to know what we did to make the Empress favor us. I did not do anything, Jake protested. We just talked. Well, the galaxy thinks you did something, Ryan pointed out, and they are not happy about it. Before Jake could respond, Kelver appeared in the doorway. The advisor looked more worried than Jake had ever seen him. Captain Murphy, Kelver said, you must come with me immediately. The Empress is in danger. They rushed through the palace corridors to the main command center. Through the large windows, Jake could see space filled with warships. Hundreds of them, from dozens of different species. The Empress stood at the center of the room, surrounded by her military commanders. She wore her formal robes again, but Jake could see the stress in her silver eyes. What is happening? Jake asked. The coalition of rejected suitors, the Empress replied. Representatives from the 10,000 species I refused to marry. They have formed an alliance. What do they want? Me, she said simply. Or rather, they want me to reject you publicly and choose one of them instead. Admiral Vexstar, the Empress's military commander, pointed to the tactical display. They have brought nearly 4,000 warships. Our fleet is strong, but we cannot fight them all. Jake felt sick. This is my fault. If I had not come here? No, the Empress said firmly. This is their fault for acting like spoiled children, who cannot accept rejection. A communication signal came through. Admiral Vexstar activated the main screen, and Jake found himself looking at a dozen alien faces, each more angry than the last. The largest being, covered in scales and breathing fire, spoke first. Empress Zarathis, I am Prince Korath of the Dragon Worlds. You will end this insult to the galaxy immediately. Prince Korath, the Empress replied calmly, I have insulted no one. I am free to speak with whomever I choose. You rejected all of us for this primitive human. The prince's voice shook with rage. We demand you cast him out and select a proper mate from among the true species of the galaxy. Another being, this one made of living crystal, joined the conversation. The human has clearly used some form of mind control. No rational being would choose his barbaric species over the advanced civilizations represented here. Jake stepped forward. Your Majesty, I should leave. I never wanted to cause trouble for your empire. You will not leave, the Empress said, her voice carrying the full authority of her position. Captain Murphy is a guest of the Zarian Empire, and he will remain as long as he wishes. Prince Korath roared with anger. Then you have chosen war, Empress. We will destroy the human fleet and take you by force, if necessary. The communication ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Your Majesty, Admiral Vextar said, we should consider their demands. A war with this many species could destroy the Empire. Jake felt terrible. Everything had gone wrong so quickly. A few weeks ago, he had been on a simple diplomatic mission. Now he was the cause of a potential galactic war. There has to be another way, he said. What do you suggest? The Empress asked. Jake thought about it. Let me talk to them. Maybe I can explain that this is all a misunderstanding. They will not listen to you, Kelver said. They see you as the enemy. Then let me prove I am not. The Empress looked at Jake with concern. What are you planning? I am going to tell them the truth. That I am not trying to win you or conquer your empire. I am just a human who enjoys talking with you. And if they do not believe you, then at least I will have tried. An hour later, Jake found himself on the main communication channel, speaking to the leaders of the coalition of rejected suitors. Their faces filled the screen, all of them looking at him with hatred. I am Captain Jake Murphy of Earth, he began. I understand. You are angry about my presence here, but I think there has been a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? Prince Korath demanded. You have stolen the Empress from her rightful suitors. I have not stolen anyone, Jake replied. The Empress and I are friends. We talk about our cultures and share stories about our worlds. That is all. Lies, shouted the crystal being. No one spends weeks with the Empress without romantic intentions. Jake took a deep breath. You are right that I care about her, but not because she is an Empress or because I want power. I care about her because she is intelligent, curious, and kind. She deserves to be treated as a person, not as a prize to be won. Humans are weak. Another alien leader spat. What could you possibly offer that we cannot? Nothing, Jake admitted. I cannot offer vast fleets or incredible technology. I cannot make her empire stronger or give her control of new territories. All I can offer is my friendship and respect. The alien leaders looked confused by this answer. Jake continued. I have learned something about the Empress that I think you have missed. She is lonely. For over a century, beings have visited her palace wanting to marry her for political gain. No one has ever just wanted to be her friend. Friendship is worthless, Prince Korath roared. She needs a strong mate to help her rule. Does she? Jake asked. She has ruled successfully alone for 123 years. She does not need someone to rule for her. She needs someone who sees her as more than just an empress. The crystal being leaned forward. And you believe you are that someone? I do not know, Jake said honestly. That is up to her to decide. But I think she should have the right to choose for herself, without threats of war. Prince Korath laughed bitterly. You speak of choice, but you have already won her favor through trickery. What trickery? I brought her music from Earth, pictures of my world, and letters from children. I asked her about her culture and shared stories about mine. If that is trickery, then I am guilty. The alien leaders talked among themselves in languages Jake could not understand. Finally, Prince Korath spoke again. You have 3 days, human. 3 days to prove you are not manipulating the Empress. If you cannot, we will take her by force. The communication ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. The Empress approached him, her face serious. That was very brave, Captain Murphy. It was very stupid, Jake replied. I do not know how to prove I am not manipulating you. Actually, the Empress said with a small smile, I think you just did. What do you mean? You told them the truth about everything, even when it made you look bad. You admitted you care about me, but you also said the choice should be mine to make. Jake felt his cheeks turn red again. I should not have said I care about you. That was inappropriate. Jake, the Empress said, using his first name for the first time, look at me. He looked into her silver eyes and saw something there that made his heart beat faster. I care about you too, she said softly. Behind them, Kelver smiled. In 200 years of service to the imperial family, he had never seen the Empress look so happy, but they still had 3 days to figure out how to stop a war. 3 days to prove that sometimes the greatest victory is not conquering someone, but simply being worthy of their friendship. The galaxy was watching, and the clock was ticking. Jake Murphy woke up in the most comfortable bed he had ever experienced. The guest quarters in the Imperial Palace were larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. Through the window, he could see the crystal cities of Zerion Prime stretching to the horizon. A soft chime announced that someone was at his door. When Jake opened it, he found Kelver waiting with what looked like an invitation. Good morning, Captain Murphy, the advisor said. Her Majesty requests your presence for the Konya. Morning meal. Jake was surprised. Just me? Yes. She wishes to continue your conversation from yesterday. Jake quickly got dressed and followed Kelver through corridors filled with morning light. They arrived at a smaller room than the throne chamber. It had a round table, comfortable chairs, and walls covered with moving pictures of peaceful scenes. From across the galaxy dot, the Empress was already there, wearing simpler clothes than her formal robes. She looked younger somehow, less like an untouchable ruler and more like a person. Good morning, Captain Murphy. I hope you slept well. Very well, thank you. Your palace is amazing. Please sit. I have ordered foods that should be safe for humans to eat. The table was filled with fruits, breads, and drinks that smelled wonderful. Jake tried several items and found them delicious. Your Majesty, he said, yesterday you mentioned that your people create art that changes based on emotion. Could you show me how that works? The Empress looked pleased by his question. She touched a panel on the wall, and the moving pictures began to shift. Colors flowed like water, and shapes formed and reformed in patterns that made Jake feel peaceful. This responds to my current mood, she explained. Right now I feel curious and perhaps a little happy. It's beautiful. On Earth, we have paintings and sculptures, but nothing like this. Tell me about Earth art. Jake pulled out his communication device and showed her pictures of famous paintings, sculptures, and buildings from human history. The Empress studied, each one with genuine interest. This one, she said, pointing to a picture of a simple wooden sculpture. It is not technically perfect, but it makes me feel something. That was carved by a farmer in Kansas. He was not a professional artist, but he wanted to make something beautiful for his wife. A farmer made art? Many humans create art, even if it is not their job. We have teachers who paint, mechanics who write poetry, and doctors who play music. The Empress was quiet for a moment. In our empire, art is created by specialists. Only those trained in the imperial academies are allowed to make official works. What about unofficial art? What do regular Zerians create? I do not know. I have never asked. Jake realized he had stumbled onto something important. The Empress ruled billions of people, but she did not know what they did in their daily lives. Would you like to find out? He asked. How? We could. Visit the city. See how your people live when they are not in the palace. The Empress looked shocked. I cannot simply walk among my subjects. Why not? It is not ... proper. Empresses do not wander through common areas. Jake leaned forward. Your Majesty, can I tell you something about Earth leaders? She nodded. Our best presidents and prime ministers regularly visit normal places. They go to schools, hospitals, and neighborhoods. They eat at regular restaurants and talk to ordinary people. It helps them understand what their citizens need. But surely they are protected by many guards? Some, yes, but the goal is to seem as normal as possible. Leaders who stay isolated from their people often make poor decisions. The Empress considered this. You think I am isolated? Jake chose his words carefully. I think you are surrounded by people who tell you what they think you want to hear. That makes it hard to know what is really happening in your empire. And you believe walking among my people would help? It might. Plus, you would get to see the art that regular Xerians create. That afternoon, to the horror of her security staff, the Empress disguised herself in simple clothes and left the palace with Jake. They took a small transport to the nearest city district. The streets were busy with Xerians going about their daily lives. They bought food from vendors, hurried to work, and talked with friends. None of them recognized their Empress. Jake and the Empress walked through markets filled with handmade items. They saw jewelry that captured light in unique ways, clothing with patterns that told stories, and small sculptures that moved when the wind touched them. This is all art, the Empress said, amazement in her voice. Created by people who are not official artists. Jake pointed out. They stopped at a food stand run by an elderly Xerian with kind eyes. He served them soup that tasted better than anything. In the palace. You are not from this district, the old man said to the Empress. Your accent is from the northern provinces. The Empress panicked slightly, but Jake jumped in. We are travelers, seeing different parts of your beautiful world. Ah, tourists. Then you must try the sunset viewing from the high towers, and visit the memory gardens where the children play. Memory gardens? Jake asked. Places where we honor those who came before us. The children play there because they say the spirits of the ancestors, like the sound of laughter. As they walked away, the Empress was quiet. What are you thinking? Jake asked. That old man was happy, truly happy. I have advisors who manage everything in my empire, but I have never asked if my people are happy. Are you happy? Jake asked gently. The Empress stopped walking. No one had ever asked her that question. I do not know, she said finally. I have been an Empress for so long, I do not remember what it feels like to be just ... me. What were? You like before you became Empress? I was curious about everything. I wanted to explore the galaxy and meet new species. I dreamed of adventures among the stars. What happened to those dreams? Duty, responsibility. The empire needed a strong ruler, so I became one. I stopped thinking about what I wanted and focused on what my people needed. Jake understood. On Earth, we have a saying, you cannot pour from an empty cup. It means you cannot take care of others if you do not take care of yourself first. They visited the memory gardens as the sun set. Children were indeed playing there, their laughter mixing with the sound of wind chimes hung from the trees. The Empress watched them with a soft smile. They are beautiful, she said. So are you, Jake replied, then immediately turned red. I mean, this place is beautiful. The gardens are beautiful. The Empress looked at him with surprise, then laughed. It was the first time Jake had heard her laugh, and the sound was like music. Captain Murphy, are you embarrassed? A little. I did not mean to be inappropriate. You are not inappropriate. You are honest. That is ... refreshing. As they walked back to the transport, the Empress asked, Do you have children on Earth? I do not, but I have a niece who is 7 years old. She reminds me why it is important to stay curious about the world. What is she curious about? Everything. Why the sky is blue, how birds fly, whether aliens are friendly. Jake paused. I guess now I can tell her that at least one alien is very friendly. The Empress smiled again. I would like to meet her someday. I would like that too. That evening, as they returned to the palace, both Jake and the Empress realized something had changed between them. What had started as a diplomatic meeting was becoming something much more personal. Neither of them was ready to admit it yet, but the rest of the galaxy was beginning to notice. For the first time in over a century, the Empress seemed truly alive. Jake Murphy, the simple captain from Earth, was the reason why. The New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zerian system. Jake Murphy stood on the bridge, looking at his first view of an alien empire. The sight took his breath away. Hundreds of ships moved between the planets like silver. Fish in a vast ocean. Space stations the size of moons orbited the worlds. And floating above the largest planet was a palace that seemed to be made of captured sunlight. Sir, said Lisa Carter, we are getting a message from Zerion Traffic Control. Put them through. A voice spoke in perfect English. The universal translator made communication easy between different species. Human vessel, you are cleared to approach the Imperial Palace. Please follow the marked route and do not deviate. Jake noticed something strange. Dozens of massive alien warships were leaving the system as his small ship approached. Their hulls were black with anger, and their engines burned bright as they raced away from Zerion Prime. I wonder what made them so upset, Lisa said. Maybe we will find out. The New Horizon was tiny compared to the palace. As they got closer, Jake could see that it was covered in patterns that seemed to move and change. The docking bay could have held 1,000 ships like theirs. When they landed, Jake was surprised by how normal everything looked inside. The corridors were wide and bright, with plants growing along the walls. The air smelled like flowers from Earth. A tall alien with 6 arms met them at the airlock. His skin was gray, and his eyes were kind but tired. Welcome to Zerion Prime, he said. I am Kelver, advisor to Her Imperial Majesty. She will see you in 1 hour. Thank you, Jake replied. I am Captain Jake Murphy. This is my diplomatic team. Kelver looked confused. Your team is very small. Most visitors bring hundreds of servants and guards. We do not need many people for a trade discussion, Jake said. Just a few of us should be enough. As they walked through the palace, Jake was amazed by what he saw. The walls showed pictures that moved like windows into other worlds. Music floated through the air without any visible source. Everything was beautiful, but it felt cold somehow. Sir, whispered Ryan Brooks, is science. Officer, the energy readings here are incredible. This palace could power all of Earth for 1,000 years. Try not to stare too much, Jake whispered back. We want to make a good impression. They entered a waiting room filled with comfortable chairs and tables covered with food from across the galaxy. Jake tried a few items and found them surprisingly tasty. Captain Murphy, Kelver said, returning after 30 minutes. Her Majesty will see you now. Please bring your gifts. Jake picked up a simple bag from Earth. Inside were a few items his government had chosen to represent humanity. A collection of music from different cultures, photographs of Earth's landscapes, and letters from children at schools around the world. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above, and the walls seemed to stretch forever. At the center sat the Empress on a throne that glowed with soft light. Jake had seen pictures of aliens before, but nothing had prepared him for seeing the Empress in person. She was beautiful in a way that seemed impossible. Her skin was pale blue like winter sky, and her silver eyes seemed to hold the light of stars. But what struck Jake most was how sad she looked. The proper thing to do was bow low and wait for permission to speak. Jake had read about the customs, but when he saw the Empress sitting alone on her giant throne in her enormous empty room, all he could think was how lonely she must be. "Your Majesty," he said with a simple bow of his head, "thank you for agreeing to see us. I am Jake Murphy from Earth." The Empress looked surprised. Most visitors threw themselves on the floor and gave long speeches about her beauty and power. "Captain Murphy," she said. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I understand your people wish to establish trade relations." "Yes, Your Majesty. Earth has many things to offer, and we would love to learn from your advanced civilization." Jake approached the throne and set his bag on the floor. "I brought a few gifts from our world. They are not valuable like gold or jewels, but they show what humanity is like." He pulled out a music player and pressed a button. The sound of a guitar filled the throne room, followed by a woman singing a folk song from Ireland. The Empress leaned forward, clearly interested. "This is music from my world," Jake explained. "Different cultures create different sounds, but they all express human emotions." Next, he showed her photographs of Earth, pictures of mountains, oceans, forests, and cities. The Empress studied each one carefully. "Your world is very beautiful," she said. "These places look peaceful." "They are," Jake agreed. "Earth has problems, but it also has wonderful places and people." Finally, he pulled out the letters from children. "A school in Ohio heard about our mission. The students wanted to send messages to alien friends." The Empress took one of the letters and read it aloud. "Dear alien friends, my name is Amy, and I am 8 years old. Do you have pets on your planet? I have a dog named Buddy. He likes to chase balls and sleep in the sun. I hope we can be friends." For the first time in over a century, the Empress smiled. Not the formal smile she gave to visiting dignitaries, but a real smile that reached her. "Eyes. This child wants to know about our pets," she said, sounding amazed. "Children ask the best questions," Jake said. "They are curious about everything and everyone." "And what about you, Captain Murphy? What questions do you have?" Jake had not expected the Empress to ask him anything. Most of his briefings had focused on following protocol and not making mistakes. "Well," he said, "I would love to know about your people's history. How did the Zarian Empire grow so large? What are your cities like? Do you have families like humans do?" The Empress stared at him. In 123 years of rule, no visitor had ever asked about her people's daily lives or culture. They only wanted to talk about power, territory, and military alliances. "You want to know about our culture?" she asked. "Very much. Understanding each other is the first step to friendship." Kelver watched from the side of the room with growing amazement. The Empress was talking more than she had in years. Her voice was animated, and her eyes were bright with interest. "Tell me about Earth customs," the Empress said. "How do humans choose their leaders?" For the next 2 hours, Jake and the Empress talked about their worlds. She told him about Zarian art, science, and philosophy. He shared stories about human history, both the good and the bad parts. When the meeting ended, the Empress made an unusual request. "Captain Murphy, would you and your team like to stay as our guests for a few days? There is much more we could discuss." Jake looked at his crew. They all nodded eagerly. "We would be honored, Your Majesty." As they left the throne room, Kelver pulled Jake aside. "Captain," he said quietly, "in all my years of service, I have never seen the Empress so interested in a visitor." "She is very intelligent," Jake replied. "I enjoyed our conversation." What Jake did not know was that across the galaxy, news networks were already reporting the impossible. The human delegation had been invited to stay at the Imperial Palace. For the first time in over a century, the Empress wanted to spend more time with the suitor. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the best way to win someone's heart is to not try to win it at all. The golden palace of Empress Zarathis stretched across the sky like a second sun. It floated high above the crystal cities of Zarian Prime, the most important world in the galaxy. Every being who looked up at it knew they were seeing the home of the most powerful ruler in known space. Inside the throne room, the Empress sat on her chair made of starlight metal. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes glowed like silver stars. She was beautiful in a way that made visitors forget how to breathe. For 123 years, she had ruled the Zarian Empire. For 123 years, she had remained alone. The problem was not that no one wanted to marry her. The problem was that everyone wanted to marry her. "Your Majesty," said her chief advisor, a tall being with 6 arms named Kelver. "The Zorthian prince has arrived with his gifts." The Empress did not move. She had heard this same announcement 10,000 times before. Each time, it was a different species. Each time, they brought treasures beyond imagination. Each time, she sent them away. "How many ships did he bring?" she asked. 400, Your Majesty, each one filled with gold from the Zorthian mines." "And what does he want in return?" "The same thing they all want. Your hand in marriage and control of half the galaxy." The Empress closed her eyes. She was tired. So very tired of this game that never ended. The Zorthian prince entered the throne room with 50 guards. He was tall and covered in shining armor. His skin was green, and his eyes were black as space. He walked like he owned the universe. "Great Empress," he said, bowing low, "I bring you the wealth of 1,000 worlds. Marry me, and together we will rule everything that exists." Behind him, his servants carried chests of gold, jewels that captured light from distant stars, and weapons that could destroy planets. The display was meant to show his power and wealth. The Empress looked at him the same way she had looked at all the others. "Your gifts are beautiful," she said, "but I must decline your offer." The prince's face turned dark with anger. "I am the greatest warrior in the Zorthian Empire. My fleet could conquer any system." "I am sure it could," the Empress replied calmly. "But that is not what I seek in a partner." "Then what do you seek?" The prince demanded. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. She had been asked this question many times, but she never had a good answer. She only knew that none of the suitors felt right. They all wanted her for the same reasons: power, control, and the chance to rule half the galaxy. "I will know when I find it," she said finally. The prince left angry, like all the others before him. His 400 ships departed that same day, leaving nothing but empty space where they had been. Kelver approached the throne after the prince was gone. "Your Majesty, that was the 10,000th suitor you have rejected." "Was it really?" The Empress did not sound surprised. The years had blended together into one long parade of hopeful rulers and princes. The galactic news networks are calling. You, the impossible Empress. They say no being in the universe can win your heart. Perhaps they are right. But surely, Your Majesty, one of them must have been acceptable? The Altarian king offered to give up his own throne. The Crystalline Collective offered to share their technology to make you immortal. The Empress stood and walked to the great window that looked out over her empire. Millions of lights sparkled in the darkness below. Each light was a city, a world, a life that depended on her decisions. "They all see the same thing when they look at me," she said. "They see power. They see an empire to control. They see a prize to be won. But Your Majesty, what else is there to see?" The Empress turned to look at her advisor. Kelver had served her family for 200 years. He was loyal and wise, but even he did not understand. "I do not know," she admitted, "but I hope someday someone will show me." Far across the galaxy, on a small blue world called Earth, "Captain, Jake Murphy was getting ready for his first deep space mission. He did not know about the Empress or her 10,000 rejected suitors. He did not know that his name would soon be known on every world in the galaxy. He was just a man from a small town in Colorado who loved exploring new places and meeting new people. His ship, the New Horizon, was not the biggest or the fastest in the human fleet, but it was his, and he was proud of it. "Captain," said his second officer, a woman named Lisa Carter, "we have our orders. We are to make contact with the Zerion Empire and establish trade relations." Jake looked at the star charts on his screen. The Zerion Empire was far from Earth, in a part of space humans had never visited. "Any advice from command about their customs?" he asked. "Only that they are very formal, and we should follow all proper diplomatic procedures." Jake nodded. He had done first contact missions before. They usually went well if everyone stayed calm and respectful. He had no idea that he was about to change the course of galactic history. He had no idea that while 10,000 beings had failed to win the heart of an empress, he was about to succeed without even trying. The New Horizon jumped to hyperspace, carrying Jake toward a destiny he could never have imagined.